Joan Cartwright is a passionate raconteur of the history and evolution of African American classical music, which is known in some quarters as jazz.
Missed the Saturday dance, heard they crowded the floor.
I'm Joan Cartwright. I'm a jazz and blues singer, composer, producer, and author of 9 books about my experience in the music, about amazing music women, about the history of jazz and blues, and poetry.
I know how it feels to have wings on your heels and to fly down the street in a trance.
I've been singing since I was 4. I started in New York City at Bernice Johnson's dancing school, and Bernice Johnson was married to Bud Johnson, a very, very well-known saxophone player. And I'm 63, so I've been doing it for 59 years. Well, this book is called A History of African American Jazz and Blues. And I went to the specific of African American because the music came out of the African experience in America. However, the music has evolved to be a Euro-centric music. And I suppose that the reason for that is that the Africans at the time were considered possessions of the Europeans in America, and so therefore their cultural production became owned by the so-called master. However, the music is what freed Africans in this country. Their voice was expressed through blues and jazz. Now, the blues is the parent of jazz, okay? And the blues, I say, is the moaning or the wailing of the black woman whose children have been ripped away from her, sold into slavery, or whose husband didn't come home that night because he's either hanging from a tree, beat down to death, in prison, or he ran away on a freight train headed north for freedom. So she expressed herself through the blues. Then later on, the blues became the music of the guitarists and the harmonica players who were actually running north. You know, so it became a male-oriented music where it really began with the moans and cries of women. The minute that music, that jazz, transposed to economics, to money, it was taken away from the black community. But the black community didn't really realize that because they were just there to play music. Max Roach never accepted the name jazz. You know what jazz means? Do you? Okay. Jazz is a French word for sex because the music was played in brothels, okay, in New Orleans and other areas, you know, in the Midwest. So it was related to sex because it was played in a brothel. But the music is brilliant. And so what an professional musician referred to it as is African American classical music. So call it that. It's not jazz. You know, people love the word jazz. Why? Because it evokes fun. It evokes sex, you know, and all of that. But the music, I don't call my song Sweet Return jazz. You know, it's classical. It may not be totally Beethovenian or Mozartian, but it's Joan Cartwrightian, you understand? And it's based upon classical, you know, a classical theme. So it's African American classical music. So that's reclaim it, rename it, and refame it. The best music comes out of people that have inner freedom. And jazz is the best example of a people expressing their true self.
You better play that note, you know. You will find yourself with no show. You better play the note one more time. You gotta find yourself a one note. Play the note, you know.